Welcome to the Infuse Compassion podcast, hosted by me, Amy Quisenberry.
And me, Mark Carpenter.
We are on a mission to make this world a kinder place for us all by bringing healthier human connection to communities, families, and organizations of all types and sizes.
Our goal is to create stronger relationships, more inspired teams, increased trust, and improved results.
So let's get started with more ways to infuse compassion into our world. Welcome back, Compassionators, to the Infuse Compassion podcast. We have a very special guest today who's going to talk about something that is actually has touched both Mark's family and my family. And we're really, really proud to bring this guest here to talk with all of you. I'm going to turn it over to Mark to do the introductions.
I am super honored to introduce and to bring in with us today Dr. Anna Thomas. And I will probably put a few personal interjections in this because I got to meet Dr. Thomas about a month ago. And so I've gotten to know Anna just a little bit since then. But Dr. Anna Thomas is a palliative care physician, speaker, author, coach, and caregiver advocate dedicated to empowering women balancing caregiving and professional careers. And that's what we're going to talk about today is that the caregivers that we may know in our lives. And it may be some of you. As the founder of Life Care Leadership, and I'll have to tell you, the first time I saw your logo, I went, oh, there's a typo in your logo. There's an extra H in leadership.
Nope.
But it's very intentional, lead her ship. And she's also the author of Dementia Care Confidence. She combines over 10 years of medical expertise and personal caregiving experience to deliver impactful strategies for thriving in life, work, and caregiving. Dr. Thomas also partners with organizations to support employed caregivers, offering tailored workshops and programs that create cultures of care and resilience. And beyond that, she's just a wonderfully warm person who this first time I met her, I just immediately was drawn to her goodness. And so welcome with us, Dr. Anna Thomas. So glad that you could be with us today and speak with our Compassionators.
Well, thank you, Mark and Amy, for having me here today.
Let's start with this. Tell us about the work that you do in supporting caregivers, and why did you get into this work? What's that origin story?
Sure. So my work, it focuses on empowering working caregivers, particularly women who are balancing careers, work, and life and care for a loved one living with dementia or another advanced illness. And the reason that I got into this work, so, many caregivers, they feel isolated, they feel overwhelmed, they feel unsupported at work and at home. And through my company, Life Care Leadership, I'm able to provide education and coaching and advocacy to help them build the confidence they need to go from feeling overwhelmed all the time to really step into that role as a leader in their care situation. So I got into this work because as a palliative care physician, I've seen firsthand how families struggle, but these families, caregivers, they're the invisible backbone of the healthcare system, but we're not giving them the support that they need. I also understand a lot of this from my own personal experiences, my own family experiences when my mom got sick in the middle of COVID and trying to juggle work and caregiving and parenting. I had, at that time, my daughter was only 3 years old and just trying to juggle everything at the same time. It was one of the most overwhelming periods of time in my life. And so, from all of these experiences, it led me to start Life Care Leadership. And my mission is to help working caregivers really step into this role with strength. So they're not just surviving, they're thriving.
Thank you. Amy mentioned that this is personal for both of us. My mother suffered from dementia. She passed away about 10 years ago, and my oldest sister was the primary caregiver for her. Now, she was 600 miles away from where I lived, but my heart went out to her all the time. How does a caregiver in that situation, particularly those who are working, balance that caregiving with some compassion for themselves without feeling like, oh, I can't take care of myself. That's selfish. My job is to take care of others right now. How do you balance self-compassion in that role?
And you're right, because oftentimes self-compassion or spending time for yourself, it causes feelings of guilt. And that's often one of the biggest struggles that caregivers has. You feel guilt. You feel guilt that you're not doing enough. You feel guilt that you're not doing enough at work or enough at home. And that when you take time for yourself, that is selfish. But the truth is, self-compassion, caring for yourself, it's not selfish at all. It's actually a survival skill. It's a leadership skill. And how do you approach that? What I like to teach is this practice of just reframing. When you hear yourself saying, I should be doing more, I should be doing this and that I can't even sit down to, have a cup of coffee. You have to reframe it and think to yourself, well, I'm doing the best that I can with the resources that I have. Or if you're thinking, well, I need to take a break, my loved one needs me, or on the converse, you're thinking, I can't take a break because they need me. You have to reframe it. I need to rest so I can care better. And one way that I encourage caregivers, if you're listening, is to just imagine that you're talking to your best friend. And if your best friend was saying that I should be doing more or I can't take a break, what advice would you give them? You would give them the most compassionate advice of, yes, you need to take that break. You need to, give yourself even just 5 minutes. And you need to be talking to yourself just like that. That self compassion is what is going to help sustain you in the long term.
I'm just smiling because Amy and I have had so many conversations about self-compassion and the importance of that in our lives. Amy, I want to throw it to you for any questions or thoughts that you have. I could monopolize this conversation a lot, and so I want to make sure you get a chance to talk to Dr. Thomas too.
Yeah, thank you. I want to spotlight one phrase that I've never heard before that I think is so powerful. Families are the invisible backbone of the healthcare system. That is something I've never heard before. If you want to expand on that, do. If not, I have a question for you. But that was just so, I've never heard that before. And it was so powerful and it was so true. So I wanted to give you a chance if you wanted to expand on that. If not, I have a question.
Absolutely, absolutely. So one of the things that I've realized as a physician, when I'm in the visit room with the patient, especially if the patient is someone who's living with dementia, everything that I say, all of my advice, my prescriptions, do this treatment, go for this test, all of that is only going to happen if there is a family caregiver who is going to make sure that it happens. If they make sure that the medications are taken on the right time, if the testing is done in the right way, they're the ones that are actually ensuring that the care plan happens in the right way. And if they're not part of the equation, none of the all of these, we can prescribe the best medications in the world, but if they're not being taken properly, we're not going to get the results that we hope to see. And the truth is, there are 53 million caregivers in America right now. These are caregivers taking care of aging parents, or maybe a spouse with disability, or a child with complicated medical care. There are so many family caregivers that are balancing work and life and care that are going unrecognized. And, one of the things that I talk about in my book and when I do my talks is that there's actually a growing crisis that unfortunately not a lot of people are aware of. So right now, this is 2025. Last year, 2024, we saw 76 million baby boomers. The baby boomer generation started to enter retirement. So that started last year. Over the next 5 years, they will all have crossed over into retirement. Over the next 25 years, their health needs are going to start to change as they get older. And every single one of them is going to start to need care. Right now in the US, there's 7 million older adults living with dementia. In 25 years, that number is expected to almost double. That's just dementia. So we're looking at 14 million for dementia. There's heart disease, cancer, lung disease, all illnesses that increase in frequency as we get older. And every single one of them is going to need someone to help them. And the healthcare system is not prepared as it is. Right? The healthcare system is not prepared as it is. We don't have enough doctors, enough nurses, enough good long-term care facilities. So more and more are going to be put on the shoulders of family caregivers. And so, yes, they are the invisible backbone, and they're the backbone that nobody is supporting in the way that they should be. And we're going to be in big trouble in 25 years if we don't start changing how we approach things.
This is a huge wake up call. I mean, you are sounding the alarm here. And I'm thinking about people like me. I run in a pretty large circle of people that, whether they intentionally or unintentionally chose to not have kids, like made an intentional choice, or life just turned out that way that they don't have kids. We're going to go into the system. We don't have an a built-in child. And listen, I don't want to act like if you have kids that means you automatically have a caregiver,
You're right.
because I know a lot that that is not the case. But I look at my family and the caregiving that my family has done. So that's the model in my mind. Um, Thank you for sharing. That those data marks are terrifying. Um, let's talk about a different lens. So I have a question for you. Can you share a story of a caregiver who transformed their experience by embracing self-compassion and seeking support? You gave us this question, and I love this question.
Sure, and I love sharing this story. So this is a story. I'm going to change the name. So it's a caregiver that I work with. Let's call her Sarah. And Sarah was caring for her father who lived with dementia. Sarah is also a working mom, and she has kids who are in their teenage years, and it's a lot. Teenage daughters, high school, all of that, and then you're caring for your dad who's living with dementia, and he had to move in with her, and there was all of these changes that were happening. And in the middle of it, Sarah's still working full time. And when she came to me, she was feeling completely drained, feeling like she's failing both at work, both at home, as a mother to her daughters, as a daughter to her father. She really felt that she was failing in all of these different roles. And she was in tears because she needed to find a way to make all of this work. And what we did is we focused just on three small shifts. And the first one, and this is probably the biggest one for a lot of us, is getting comfortable asking for help. Now, Sarah had siblings, and she needed to get her siblings involved in the caregiving task. And she needed to learn how to be a little bit assertive and say, listen, this is the help that I need. You need to fly down on, these weekends, and you need to be here with dad so I can take the girls, for their college tours or whatever it is that she needed to do. She needed to learn how to really step into that leadership role of asking for help, delegating, things of that nature. So that was one. The second one, and this is related to self compassion, is letting go of that guilt that she doesn't have to be super mom. She doesn't have to be super daughter. She is doing the best that she can with the resources that she has, and giving herself permission to rest because she was burning out. She was burning both ends of the candle, and she needed to give herself permission to rest. And the third area that we worked on was, her becoming more of an advocate in the workplace to get some more flexibility because she needed to figure out, like, how do I either work a little bit remotely or somehow adjust my hours so that I could be there for my dad's appointments. So those are the three skills that we worked on, and just even those small shifts made a big difference for her. Like, she said to me, like, for the first time in years, I don't feel like I'm drowning. Like, I feel like I have a plan. But the biggest change out of all of them was she learned, one, that she needed to be a leader in this situation, not just a giver, people who give and give and give, but to see herself that now I have to lead this situation. And I start that by leading myself well and being kind to myself, having that self compassion.
Those are all three so powerful. And one and three, having that voice.
Mhm.
And I would imagine if they haven't found their voice yet, you, Dr. Anna, help them find their voice. So thank you. Thank you for that. Mark, I know you've got some questions.
You can see it in my eyes, right? And I
Yes.
want to take another little twist here, and I want to take it from. This is personal. I'm taking it from my perspective. My sister's giving care to my mother. I'm 600 miles away. What can I do? What can I do to support that caregiver, even if I'm not maybe immediately right there where I can step in on the weekends or step in after hours to give them a little extra time?
So the first thing to realize is that even though you're not the primary caregiver, you're not the one doing the hands-on care, you still have a caregiving responsibility. And Therefore, you also have a leadership responsibility for this care situation, right? So in this scenario, your sister is the primary, she's involved in most of the day to day, but she's also leaning on you and some of your skill sets. Not everyone has the same skill sets when it comes to caregiving. Some of us are really good at the hands-on care. Some of us are really good at advocating at the doctor's office and being like, "Hey, we need to, make some changes to the care plan, the medications that we're taking." So sometimes it's, even if you're not there in person, are there other ways that I can contribute? I can help. I can use my skills to help the situation. And oftentimes, caregivers may hear a phrase from family members like, it's like, let me know if you need anything, but then they don't know what to ask, right?
Yeah.
And what's helpful is if you realize that you've been saying that and they're not actually asking for help, next time, like, give them something very specific. Like, say, listen, I'm going to be in town this next weekend. For those 2 days, let me help with these three things, or let me be there for the 8 hours that I'm there. You go and do something that you need to do. Like, let me be there, be present, and you go and do something. Or if you live local, you could say something like, can I drop off a meal on Tuesday? Or can I go to the pharmacy and pick up the meds for you? Because sometimes that's really hard. You don't want to leave your loved one just to even go pick up meds. So giving them a very specific tasks that you're able to do can be very helpful. Now they don't have to come up and think of all the different possibilities that you may or may not be able to do. You're telling them right up front, I'm here. These are some of the things I'm able to do. Which of these would you like me to do?
I love the intentionality behind that. Because you're right. A lot of times we sit and feel like, well, I don't know that there's anything I can do. So let me know what I can do. But if we really think about it, we can find ways. And I loved your point about using your strengths.
Hmm.
What are my strengths that I can bring into this caregiving process where I can make a difference and I can help? And then make those specific offers, or even sometimes, because I know it's hard for caregivers sometimes to let go, to just step in and just do it. Say, hey, I'm here. Bye. Go do something for
Right.
yourself
Yeah.
right now. But I love the intentionality behind that. That leads me to another question. How do you know, particularly as the caregiver, a family caregiver, when you've gotten to the point where I can't be the one that provide this care anymore? I have to turn this over to professionals. And how do you have that conversation with the other caregivers in your family, especially when there may be some disagreement around the right direction to go forward?
Sure. So, when it comes to that scenario, there's a lot of things to consider, right? There's the needs and wants of the person you're caring for, their abilities, how much help they need, physical help, what type of help it is, where the care is being provided. Is it in your home, in their home, in a facility? Who's involved? Which family members, how much they're contributing. So there's a lot of different factors in place. But if you're the primary caregiver and you feel that you're starting to get burnt out or you're not having the time to take care of yourself, the first thing to remember is in this scenario, you are like the CEO of a company, and you need to be able to step back and look at the whole picture. If a CEO of a company is doing the finance and the marketing and the HR and transportation and doing all of these different things, how are they leading? They're not able to. And the same thing from a caregiving situation. If you're the primary caregiver and you're doing the personal care and the toileting and the bathing and the medications and the appointments and you're doing all of those, you you're stuck in like reaction mode, and you need to be able to step back. So one of the first things that you do is you take that step back, look at it from a broad view and say, these are the different responsibilities that I have. Which of these are the easiest ones for me to hand off to somebody else? Which of these it takes up the most of my time but isn't providing the most value to the situation, right? The 80/20 rule. Or which of these are things that only I can do, but something else like picking up meds or maybe helping with bathing and dressing is something that I can very easily delegate. So, first, as the leader, you have to identify that, right? What are the things that I need to do? What are the things I can delegate? What am I willing to delegate? That's key. Willing to delegate, because we want to hold on to it a lot. Then, and and I do a whole workshop on this and all the different resources that are available in the community, because there's a lot of different options available and different prices for all of that, when you're looking to hire for help. But before you go to hire help, sit down with your family and you say, these are the different areas that I need help with. What are you able to contribute? What are you able to do? And if we're not able to do it as a family, now we need to get some outside help in. And then figure out what the cost would be and make sure that it's appropriate for what you're able to afford and what makes most sense for your family's needs. And of course, you're including your loved one in the middle who is receiving the care as part of that conversation as well.
Yeah. Boy, those are great tips. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, I want to dig in on something that I heard you say. Um, Willing to delegate because sometimes we want to hold on to certain things.
Hmm.
What if there's a caregiver? There are caregivers, and there are some that I know where um, they really feel like they're the best one to care, and they're not willing to give anything away, and they don't see themselves deteriorating in the process. They're not able to see it, right?
Hmm.
They have so much love and care for this person. What can the people around this caregiver do to help them see that we see that you love this person, but help us help you love yourself as well?
Right. Yeah, and that's often very challenging, especially when it's husband wife. Um, One person is sick and not doing well, and then you feel that there's a lot of love in the situation. There's also a lot of feeling of duty and responsibility, that this is my role. This is my responsibility, and I can't give it to somebody else. Like, this is my husband, this is my wife. Like, I have to be the one to do this. And it's very tied into our emotions and our sense of who we are as well.
Yeah,
uh
identity was the word that was coming to my mind. Yeah, it's tied into
exactly,
our
yeah.
identity.
It's in that identity, and it's really hard to pry that away, especially when being in that caregiver role and providing that love and support provides so much meaning. What I would invite then is a conversation about how can we help you and support you in your role as a caregiver so that you can continue to do so without burning out. Sometimes I say, like, if you hire somebody just for a couple of hours a week, you're going to get a chance to go to the doctor. You're going to get a chance to take care of yourself. And sometimes if you have an extra person here when it's time for your loved one to maybe get dressed and ready in the morning, now they're less likely to fall and get hurt. You're less likely to fall and get hurt. And that's preserving both of your health for the long term. Uh, and sometimes I may even say this, if we have someone there to help us, maybe we can prevent the fall, because that fall, if it happens and if your loved one breaks their hip, they might end up going to a nursing home, which you don't want. So by getting the help in place, sometimes we can keep your loved one at home, allows both of you to get the support that you need, and you can continue to be caregiver, wife, husband, whatever that role is. And you can maybe even step away from always being the caregiver and now step back into your role as loving wife, loving husband, daughter, whatever your relationship is. So those are some strategies to help. And if you take some time, it's not an easy thing to change, because it is an identity shift, like Mark said. Um, but you just approach it in a gentle way.
Yeah,
Thank
thank
you.
you. Love that. What other question? Again, I'm coming at this from a bunch of different angles, but I want to come at it from the workplace angle. If I'm an employer, if I know that there's somebody on my team who is also caregiving at home, I need to be able to rely on that person at work. But what can I do to help them balance? How can I, as an employer, help a caregiver balance their life?
So the first thing that I would say, and Mark, I would say that as a leader, you're very astute to say that you want to do that. A lot of workplaces don't even recognize that there is this issue, that there are employees in their workforce who are doing two full-time jobs, right? One that's paid and one that's unpaid, and they're going home to a double shift, and they're burning out. And a lot of workplaces don't realize that because their employees are juggling these different roles, they are it's affecting their workplace performance. It's affecting their hours. Many of them are cutting back to part-time or even quitting their jobs entirely. If a third of the workforce quit due to caregiving needs, what would be the impact in an organization? The impact for having to hire and retrain, especially, talented employees, to have to replace them. It's tremendous. So for the first thing I would say for an organization is to recognize that there is an absolute need for workplaces to be supporting their employees so that they can thrive both at home as well as work. So what are some of the tools that you can implement? So one is recognition. Two is creating a culture in the workplace that makes it open for individuals who are balancing these different struggles, whether it's caring for an aging parent or caring for a child with disability. So they feel open talking about it, because you can't make any changes unless you know what the extent of the issue is. And then, once you know what type of caregiving they're giving, what the struggles that they're facing, then you can start to put in solutions to help them. So there's a lot of different resources that employers can put in place. So it could be flexible schedules, it could be making sure that there are remote work options, paid leave when possible. Some companies have employee assistance programs, some companies have support groups, or other sort of workplace benefits that caregivers can use. Now, here's the thing: many times it's in the HR benefits manual, but the caregiving employee doesn't actually know that it's there. So making sure that you're communicating what are the different benefits that are available, because as the employer, you're paying for all these different benefits. You want to make sure that your people are using them so that they can take full advantage of that and be able to work fully in the workplace.
And you said the employee might not know, and the HR representative may, but the direct manager may not know either.
Exactly.
And so it's
Exactly.
even paying attention and understanding and knowing what's available, I think, is so important.
Exactly. And, for the manager, for them to understand that, how do we create this environment where my team, the people who report to me, they can feel safe to approach me so that I can help them and make sure that they're successful and the whole team is successful as a result. So those are the different steps that a workplace can put in place.
Love it.
Thank you. Thank you. So you have a book. You have a book. We want to hear about your book. Tell our compassionators about your book.
Sure. So the book is
And hold that
Dementia
up
Care
there again. Hold that up
Confidence.
there again so our people who can see it,
There we go.
can see this, can see. There we go.
So
Perfect.
Dementia Care Confidence:
Dementia care content.
3 steps to transform family caregiving with confident care leadership. It is available on Amazon. So this book goes through my framework. So it's the Confident Care Leader framework. And the purpose is to help family caregivers go from overwhelmed to feeling confident in your role as a care leader. And there's 3 steps. So step one, lead yourself well. Step two is to lead the care partnership by understanding what's going on in dementia, what's changing in their health, and how can you adapt over time. And step three is to build and lead your team. What are the different resources available? How do you find your team? What might they do? How do you lead with them? How do you work with them? So those are all the different things that are covered in the book. So it's available on Amazon. And there's also a companion course that goes along with this, that provides additional, video trainings and practical tools and resources. And in addition, I also have, in the month of April, I'm offering a free workshop, a series of workshops. It's going to be every Saturday, 12 noon Eastern time. It's going to be virtual. And this workshop is going to go through the framework at a higher level. So how do you lead yourself well? Because caregiving, it starts with self-leadership. We're going to talk about the brain. I've got my model of the brain here. We talk about the brain and how the brain impacts dementia. And then we go through all the different community resources. What's covered, what's covered by Medicare, what's covered by Medicaid, what are the different services available, how do you access them, how much things cost. We go through all of that in the workshop. So if you know someone, if those of you who are listening, if you're caring for someone living with dementia, or if you know someone that is, I really do invite you to join us. It's completely free for April, and I believe it's really going to be helpful for any caregiver who is looking to find ways to help their loved one.
Love it. And we will have all the links in the show notes too. of how you can find Dr. Thomas and take advantage of some of the information that she has and the great framework that she has put together. Amy, I'm going to put it to you. I'm going to give you the honor of the last question of the day.
Thank you. So before I ask this last question, I want to say something that I've seen here on this podcast. You, Dr. Anna, see the caregivers. You see them. And I think that's what we all want. We all want to be seen. We all want to know that we matter. And I want to sincerely thank you for this incredible work that you're doing and how you're doing it. I have on my notepad in big letters, she sees the caregiver. And that is so beautiful and it's so important. And so thank you. So what's one tip that you can share with our compassionators to help them infuse compassion this week?
So I would say it is to just pause and ask yourself, who in my life needs to hear, I see you and you matter? Who in my life needs to hear that you matter? Compassion isn't always about grand gestures. Sometimes it's just the most powerful thing is just to listen, acknowledge, offer a small act of kindness, and whether even it could even just be for yourself. Just tell yourself that you matter. So that, compassion, it starts with that presence, that acknowledgement, and that's a gift that we can give to anyone.
Beautiful. What a beautiful way to wrap us up. And I just want to thank you again, Dr. Anna Thomas, for being with us here on the Infused Compassion podcast. You have given such great insights and very practical. I love the practicality of what you're sharing that people can actually implement into their lives. And if you're not currently a caregiver, you could be someday, or you could end up being the one who needs to give care. And you likely know someone who is giving care or who will give care. So really, this is applicable for everyone that's out there. Thank you, Dr. Thomas. Thank you, Compassionators, for listening in. And let's make the world a better place by infusing compassion, by really seeing people as people. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of the Infused Compassion podcast. If you enjoyed the conversation, please share a review and like the podcast so other Compassionators can join us. Until next time, let's all do something each day to infuse compassion into the world. For more information on our guests, see the show notes. For more information on Mark and Amy, go to infusecompassion.com.